welcome everybody to another installment of Opinions Are Stupid. I'm here with my cousin Jason, as you know, my awesome host. We're going to try and get some more guests on. Lately, it's been a little hard to get anybody to do anything because they've been busy. But other than that, it's all been very good. I'm just adjusting my camera. My new camera makes me look really good.
Fancy.
So, Jason, there's been a couple of crazy things happening over the course of the last few weeks, and I think most of it involves how crappy Christian cinema and
you're going right for it. You're not hesitating. You're not dancing around.
Well,
the issue.
I mean,
right see?
It doesn't make any sense to me, right? Like the ongoing issue with me is, or the ongoing issue it seems to be with the Democrats in general, has been that they have a platform, they just have enough votes to push stuff, but they have these moderates that aren't really moderates. They're actually conservatives. They play as conservatives to their home audience, and they get a lot of money from corporations, and they're trying their best to basically, they do their best to basically be the spoilers. Cinema, Mansion. You sent me an article from The Atlantic, I think it was. No, it wasn't, from The Nation.
From the Bulwark. Sorry.
That basically said we should be kissing Joe Manchin's shoes from his yacht or whatever the fuck. I kind of feel like...
That's not what it said. It
said you should be kissing his fucking feet. It said that. They called it St. Joe.
He was saying it in a mocking way, but the idea behind it, because I actually listened to the podcast with the guy who wrote it like a couple of days later, and he was basically saying that he was he's trying to his point of view is that he's trying to make Democrats understand that in a place like West Virginia, which is highly Republican, you're not going to get somebody better than Joe Manchin in his point of view. Right. So you should work with Joe Manchin. You should try to figure out what his constituents want, because West Virginia is going to lean Republican no matter what happens, and it's going to maybe get somebody that's 10 times worse to the Democratic cause. So that's why I sent the article, because I was curious to see what your point of view is, because this is coming from a Republican, talking about this. I was just curious, your point of view being the Democrat who's against it, basically.
Well, I think that overall there is this weird shifting of demographics, right? So what I've seen is, what I'm beginning to feel is this. Manchin does a lot of stuff for people who are already in power in West Virginia. So they give him a lot of money because he's not really rocking the boat. When it comes to the coal industry, when it comes to a lot of different things, he's not really rocking the boat. So they're happy to have a guy who they can trust in Congress, right? When we look at it from the point of view of his constituency, they're ass out. Because he's not trying to get them any new work unless they work for the coal mine. He's not trying to help them get, anything other than, whatever. And he keeps doing this thing where he's like, how are we going to pay for it? How you pay for it is you tax the rich, which is the ongoing thing that Biden's trying to say. But Manchin doesn't want to tax the rich. You know why? He's fucking rich. He has a fucking yacht. He gets he has money, he has stock and money in the coal mining, in the coal business. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He wants to leave things alone. Well, this is the problem, because to be honest with you, Joe, if you want to help the people in your neighborhoods and stuff be prosperous, you got to suck a little dick when it comes to the government teeth. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do something to help these people. I know that Republicans keep saying how you going to pay for it. You know how you pay for it? Shave 10% off the fucking defense budget. Defense budget is like $2.5 trillion. Take 10% off.
But what I'm hearing to try to be down the middle in this, what I'm hearing is you're saying the system needs to overhaul, not necessarily Joe Manchin.
No, I think that it's a little bit of both. I think, yes, you have a point there. I think it's a little bit of both. I think the system is fucking corrupt. We go out of our way to let big businesses feed these guys because we don't want to pay to have them go. If we made it more even, right? When I say even, and I'm not trying to say it's not a socialist idea, but as far as socialism is concerned, we want to say something about how government is controlled by big business, which it is, because corporate money fuels these motherfuckers that stay in office, right? Joe Manchin has been, like we said, Joe Manchin has been a fucking in office for 25 years and shit. He was a governor of West Virginia, and then he became a senator of West Virginia, and he hasn't changed from there. He's been the same guy. You know, and at one point he was kind of like a positive left-leaning populist, but now he's kind of like, you know, the ongoing issue about this country is we keep leaning to the right. People keep saying, you know, communism, and the left, but we keep leaning to the right. Moderates are so far right now that if you took them 20 years in the past, they'd be Republicans. And that's the thing that I'm trying to say. I don't want them to be moderate. I don't want moderates, you know. And to your point, it was like, well, you know, Joe Manchin would probably win it. I don't know. I think that if he was running against somebody young and, you know, progressive, he'd lose. You know, the people who are voting for him are dying from COVID and some other shit. They're dying. They're old. You know, the people who are not voting for him are going to be, even West Virginians that are young aren't skewing as conservative at the people that fucking represent them. And that's been the ongoing issue. And you've seen that story a few times in various outlets. The right is controlling stuff through this minority law thing where they keep changing things to make sure their tiny amount of people get all the fucking votes. That's why they're doing the gerrymandering and stuff like that. You know, and trying to stop people from voting. Taking the power of votes away from Atlanta will stop another Democratic president from winning because they're trying to do that. Now, that being said, it's completely wrong and fucked up, and it takes power away from the people, but they don't care. Their whole point is, let's keep trying to control this stuff. Joe Manchin is in the same boat. He doesn't want to lose his seat. He wants to be a senator until he's 150. Like, what's his name? Like, all, you know, these older senators. And that's the problem. We need some kind of way to stop these guys from continuously running. He doesn't understand technology. He doesn't understand anything. He just understands what worked before, which was get money from the coal mining businesses and keep running for office. Kristen Sinema is another fucking asshole. You know,
what you're saying is there has to be an overhaul in the system, in a sense, to put a cap on people, because you know that you know how difficult that is when it's the people that are in the system that have to change it. You know, I'm trying to say that because it's basically the Senate that has to approve that type of stuff. And
well, I mean,
guys, men or women who you're in the Senate, in theory, you're giving up power. So
yes,
it's kind of, it has to be a mental change in society to skew in that way.
Mental change. You know? I think it needs to be it needs to be more than it's not a mental change. It's more like a governmental change. It's more like a way that how we think of governing. And that in itself goes against some of the way these guys look. Nobody wants to change the system that it's working for them, right? Doctors don't want to change healthcare. Insurance companies don't want to change healthcare. Pharmaceutical companies don't want to change healthcare the way it's now because it was working for them. They're getting the lion's share of the money. Just so what? 5 or 6 people end up, bankrupt. Who cares? It's like that. But the idea is wrong. It's wrong for us not to try and fix things to make them work for everyone. And everyone, I mean everyone, the rich and the poor. I know that people don't want to hear this. I know that they're like, well, I have health insurance. Why are you going to take my health insurance away? It's like, we're not taking your health insurance away, stupid. We're making it so you can have it and your neighbor has it and the guy down the street has it too. Well, then they're going to be death panels. Well, that's what Texas is doing now anyway. If you can't get treated because of all the people that are in the ICU because of COVID, I guess you're dying. That's what's happening in Texas and in Florida and in Idaho. Which population is like a sliver of Texas and Florida, but they're doing that anyway.
Speaking of Florida, when you have a chance, I know you don't listen to Rogan, but he had an interview with the guy who made the documentary back in the day, Cocaine Cowboys.
Yeah.
Billy Corbin, I believe his name. Mm-hmm. And it was I'm like halfway through, but this guy loves Florida. Corbin. He loves Florida. He was born and raised in Florida. And he's basically breaking down Florida from the nitty-gritty, from the corruption to, meeting Janet Jackson, talking about Cocaine Cowboys. It's really interesting to see like a South Florida guy breaking it down from when he was born to now. Kind of like we reminisce about New York back in the day compared to is now. Like this guy's breaking it down from the 80s to how Cubans came here all the way up to now. It's really interesting. If you have some time, It's an interesting conversation.
What is
He
this?
breaks in a minute.
The Dark Horse podcast?
No, actually Joe Rogan's podcast.
Oh, Joe Rogan's podcast.
He broke. It was a one-on-one with him, and they talk about COVID within the first like 10 minutes where he's
right, because he can't escape it, because that's his whole point now. His whole thing is I survived COVID from getting a horse tranquilizer, so I'm fine. You guys should do it too. Speaking of COVID, there was this video that came up yesterday that Mary Trump pushed about the NBA, and I'm gonna see if I can share my screen because I think it's very interesting, and because it's not.
This is high tech, people. What he's about to do is high tech performance.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen to see if I can do this. Okay, and let's go. All right,
if this is illegal, we have
see it, right. Yep, there it is. All right, so let me make it big. And it says here, let me just go back. Let me skip for a minute. It says here, why get vaccinated when you can still get COVID? All right, so let's see. Here it is, and I'm going to play it.
How'd you come across that?
I would like an explanation to, people with vaccines. Why are they still getting COVID?
Yeah.
If that's something that we are supposed to highly be protected from.
No guarantees, but...
Yo, athletes wake up 4 o'clock in the morning, lift weights, all type of conditioning drills, watch film on their opponent for hours, just to get swept in the first round of the playoffs.
Wait, what?
Yep, all that preparation and practice just to get treated with a broom and a dustpan. All that working out don't guarantee a championship. It only increases the probability if you win. It allows you to be more competitive against your opponent. If you get scored on, lose a game, don't make the playoffs, or don't win a chip, that don't mean preparation ain't worth it. Like, why you waking up at 4 a.m.? You can still lose. Might well go on back to sleep. The sun ain't up, you don't need to be neither. That's literally what y'all sound like when y'all go against the vaccine because you might still get COVID. It's a lot less likely, but you could. But even in that situation, it ain't the same. When you vaccinated and get COVID, your immune system looks like the Washington Wizards. When you unvaccinated, it looks like the Washington Generals. The vaccines have 3 major functions: film, scout team, strength and conditioning. It shows you what SARS-CoV-2 spike protein looks like, scout spikes to practice on, and creates neutralizing antibodies while also gaining B-cell and T-cell memory. So you're likely gonna watch COVID if it show up. I got you winning by 30, my boy.
With me having COVID in the past and having antibodies.
Actually, over a third of people who recover from COVID don't get protective antibodies. And even if they do, those antibodies aren't as abundant or reliable as you get from the vaccine. That way you see people catching it 2 and 3 times. So you caught COVID unvaccinated and got little to nothing of benefit to show for it. You took an L. It's all good. Just go get some practice in so it don't happen again. Get vaccinated.
I mean...
who shared this? Because who shared
Drew
this?
Comments is the guy who made this, right? Drew Comments.
So that's the guy who's breaking it down after the NBA.
Drew Comments.
Right.
It was Mary Trump, who I don't follow on Twitter, but somehow Twitter sends me shit from Mary Trump, who pushed this, and I was like, wow, this is a fucking amazing. This guy basically told people how, in a very, very specific sports-related way, how vaccines work, right? It's to me it's really funny because people still get vaccinated. It's like, yeah, no one's saying there's a guarantee. 90% isn't 100%, right? So what? It's like I don't get it. It's like, well, I shouldn't get vaccinated because then I'll get it. There's a chance I'll get it anyway. Yeah, there's a chance as compared to a guarantee. You will be guaranteed that you get it if you don't get vaccinated. You'll have a chance of getting it. And it's a low chance. Even now with the Delta variant, the chances is still in the 70-80% chance that you're not going to get fucking COVID. I don't get it. I don't understand. You know what I mean? I don't understand how to tell these people this. These people meaning everybody. I'm not just talking about black people. I'm not saying these people, those people. I'm saying people who do not want to get vaccinated. Idiots, in other words. You were saying?
So, no, I was saying, where did Mary Trump? Just out of curiosity, like, is this guy done this in the past? Is this like his thing, and he just kind of found it, like
kind of shit?
He does a channel that does.
He has a whole channel where he explains shit. Using NBA references and stuff, I guess.
Gotcha. Oh, I didn't know this. This is the first time I've seen this guy, so I wasn't sure if it was something that's been happening. I'm not in with the kids see. You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't see what
now. My other question is: do you think this is an effective model? Pro-vaccine, non-vaccine. Everybody's coming up with different ways of convincing people either that it's right, that you should take the vaccine or not. I haven't seen this approach yet. Now, I'm not on Twitter every day to see it, but do you think this is an approach that could work? Just out of curiosity, because it's a different approach that I've noticed. I think in the past, and just somebody screaming and yelling, do it. You know what I'm saying?
I think that anything. I think that anything that expresses a very clear message that helps people understand what it means, right? And he said some stuff very quickly. You have to watch it a couple times to get what he's saying, right? Because he's very, his banter is quick. He's, you know, but I believe that his point of view, because of how he says it and how he's using direct connections to things that people understand who are sports people, right?
Right.
Makes people understand it better. The whole idea of a vaccine having three components, right? The scouts, the other thing that people can get from sports, and a sports analogy makes you realize, oh, this is a very simple way. Not simple. Actually, it's kind of complicated, but it's broken down in a way, right, that's specific to something you already know. If you do it for basketball, you could do it for football. If you do it for football, you could do it for fucking, European football.
Baseball.
All kinds of different ways of making sure these people understand what it means. You can do it with all kinds of stuff. You can do it with sewing. But the idea of creating a specific message that's tailored to fit a specific bunch of people will save the time and effort of you trying to explain it in like science in a layman's term. Because Americans are dumb. They don't like science. You know why? Because fucking science is complicated. To them, everything has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. And science isn't about that. Science is about, this is what we think will probably happen. Let's test it. Oh, that didn't work. This is what we think could probably happen. Let's test that. Oh, that looks like it might be a little bit more promising. Let's do this again. But let's change these. So it's a lot of different specific ways to try to prove a question, right? And Americans don't know what the fuck that means. How do you prove something? It's either this or that, right? It's either black or white, or God said it, or some bullshit like that. They don't get it. And it's hard for people to understand that kind of of scientific method, right? Hypothesis, theory, hypothesis, and testing and experimentation that leads to an actual result. Yeah, I said a lot of big words there. Look them up. But that's basically what it comes down to. Is like there is a thought process that goes to fucking figuring shit out. It's not, here's the thing. For example, all right, we use a sports analogy, right?
Analogy.
Not anthology. That's a bunch of stories in the book. Analogy, which we're going to get to in a minute. A sports analogy to express the understanding of what COVID vaccines do. You can do the same thing with people who are gearheads. You know why? Gearheads aren't scientists, right? People who fucking fix cars and shit for themselves, hobbyists, aren't scientists. They research, but what they do is they research what they need to do to fix a certain problem on their car, motorcycle, boat, whatever, because they want to do it themselves. They're basically hobbyists, right? Okay, that particular type of situation is closer to the scientific method, right? Because they're having actual experience. Their hands are getting dirty doing the work. So they can say to themselves, oh, when adjusting a carburetor, I have to do X, Y, and Z. And here is the connections between adjusting a carburetor and what for example, I don't know, talking out of my ass, what the vaccine does. See? So that's what I'm trying to say. Most people aren't mechanically inclined. Most people don't understand shit. All they understand is how to pick up a phone and look up on YouTube and hear some crazy garbage about bullshit, right? And that's the thing. You gotta want to understand things to want to learn things, right? You got to want to understand things. You don't want to just be told something and jump on it like some people we know. Oh, I don't want to do that because I heard blah blah blah. That's not an answer.
Names.
I'm not naming any names. No, I'm not because it's more than just one person. There might be two.
Right.
But the thing is that my mom understands the science. My mom from the Dominican Republic, who went to college, graduated from high school, went to college for a little while, understands the scientific method better than other parts of my family. My direct family doesn't get it. And if you were to tell them, hey, look, man, I can get angry at people, or I can just say you're dumb, and just pack up my shit and leave it alone. But then I could also say this: if you don't understand something, don't act like you understand something, right?
Right.
Don't act like you understand something.
With saying I don't know, no matter what it is.
There's nothing wrong with it. I say it all the time. Right. I'm not sure. I don't know. Let me look it up. Let me get back to you.
That's why
I do that
all the time.
That's why opinion
is stupid, right?
What?
Yeah, right. That's why opinion is stupid, because if you don't know,
it's stupid. Because if you don't know, you don't know, and that's okay not to know. It's no one has an issue with having some kind of ignorance. Stupidity is when you won't let the ignorance go. You're not willing to get past your ignorance to learn something new. That's stupidity, right? Right. So anyway, I think it's fantastic. And look, for example, and I'm talking a lot. So if you want to say something,
he's in the zone, folks. He's in the zone. He's just Jordan scoring 60 against the Knicks in the
For example, you have a guy like Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is a hobbyist. He's a drug hobbyist. He takes drugs and then reports back. I took DMT and I shat for a week. I don't know what happened to that, but that's what happened. And you know what? People, because they have that experience of taking fucking 85 pounds of mushrooms and having a lost weekend, and Joe can do the exact same thing and talk to him. Trust him, because he's a guy like them. He's done 85 pounds of mushrooms, had a weekend where he doesn't remember where he is, and is able to come back and tell you, hey, this is what happened to me when I took DMT. It might be similar to you. Or ecstasy or whatever the fuck he's on at that any particular week. Right? Okay.
Yeah. So that's
Joe Rogan has a shared experience, right? People trust him. I don't trust Joe Rogan because I think he's a dick. I wouldn't take 85 pounds of mushrooms ever because I know what mushrooms do and I don't want to go there. And there are people that just do it to do it. And they trust Joe Rogan because he's done it too, so he must be one of me. He's me. He's like me. He's not like me because he's dumb. All right? Anybody who takes fucking horse laxative, whatever the fuck it is, to clean their blood. And by the way, I don't believe he did it. The more I hear about it, the more I don't fucking believe it. I think he's full of shit.
But I keep telling you, I think he's full of shit. He canceled a comedy weekend that he was doing with Dave Chappelle. Like, unless you're saying that Dave Chappelle was involved in this? Is that
No. I'm saying this.
By the way, his special dropped on Netflix.
Oh,
morning, we definitely got to talk about the next show. Yeah, we definitely got to talk about the next show. I definitely going to watch it.
I'm watching Squid Game right now. I'm watching Squid Game. Have you been watching Squid Game?
You're all over the place. Squid Game? Dude. Look at your face. Dude. Squid Game.
Is that Korean show that has it?
I know the show.
You know
I
haven't
seen it. I see it.
Oh my god!
I put every time I put the trailer on, my kids like take that off that because they just like freaked out of people dying and things going on.
People die. It's not a joke. So what happens is there's this guy. It starts with this guy, right? He's owes a lot of money. In Korea, the way they do things in Korea is just as bad as they do it here. There's no safety net. Once you're once you're fucked, you're fucked. There's no whatever. So he owes a lot of money. He owns millions of dollars in Korean won, or whatever the fuck it is. And he has to figure out, he's like realizing, oh man, I don't have any money. And he gambles his money away. And he meets some dude on the train, and dude's like, "Hey, let's play a game. If I could play a game, we play this game, and you win, I'll give you $100,000." He's like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, let's play this game, and I'll give you $100,000." He's like, "All right." So the game is they're doing this like they're doing a game where you throw a green pad, like a green paper pad against a red paper pad. It's a kid's game, and if you hit that. If you hit the green pad with the red pad and the red pad flips, you win. But if you don't, he slaps you in the face. And that happens a lot. He loses a lot. He gets slapped in the face a lot.
Right.
But finally gets $100,000. And he goes, $100 and whatever it is. And he goes home and he buys food. He gives his mother some money. He's like, meh. And then he finds out that his daughter is going away and there's no way that he can help her. He's not going to be able to see her anymore because, he basically ruined himself through some bad stuff. And the guy who gave him a card said, you can make some more money if you try this, if you call this big. And then you find out that the whole thing revolves around this secret play area where they kind of put together about 500 people in this thing. And the first game they play is a game called Red Light, Green Light. You're supposed to freeze when you play Red Light, Green Light, as you remember.
Right.
In this game,
kids
you don't freeze, you get killed. And that's what happens the first 2 episodes of this show. Holy fuck. And that's basically the show keeps going. Then people get off the island, they come back to the island, it gets worse. Very
this show is a Korean show that's been brought to like, gotcha. Yeah. And it's like, and it's dubbed in English. Is that what it is?
No, I mean you could dub it. I don't dub it.
No. I'm saying like it's made in Korea for Koreans. It's just they're bringing it to America. Is kind of what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how Netflix works.
Right.
Yeah, they might have bought it. They might. I don't know. Right.
Netflix has a lot. I was just curious.
Netflix has a lot of money, and what they do is all that money. A lot of that money goes to content. We talked about how much Netflix is worth. Right, and how they.
That's what I was asking. I was wondering if this was like a top show in Korea that's made it here, just like we do with like British shows, where it's like a top, show there, and then we get the show like Downton Abbey like 2 years later after it's like dominating the ratings and stuff like that.
It's Downton Abbey.
Downton, sorry, my fault.
Downton Abbey, not downtown.
Sorry. Sorry, it shows you how much I watched it.
Okay. Speaking of British shows,
see, I'm admitting that I'm wrong. You see,
you finally got around to catching up with Ted Lasso, and you're up to episode 10. Have you finished episode 10?
I just finished the funeral. Yes, I just finished that.
The funeral. I'm gonna ask you some questions. I don't want to give anything away because we're gonna do a bigger show later on, like you said, about how we can watch Ted Lasso together or talk about Ted Lasso in a bigger content. Because this season,
when all 12 episodes are done,
right, which is actually happening. The 11th just came out last week. This week, something big happened in 11. Not that anything big happened the rest of this fucking season. Something big happened in 11, and now it was only going to be 10 episodes, but they put two episodes in. They put the Christmas episode, which I cried during, of course, and they put the beard episode, which was fucking nuts.
Either people like that episode that I've heard, or they hate it. So it's kind of like one of those episodes where it's one of those it hits or it doesn't for certain people.
I liked it. I thought it was fun. Anyway,
I didn't mind it, but right.
We're gonna break down. We're gonna break down the basic understanding of it. So, Jamie has an arc that was very interesting.
Yes.
Roy and Phoebe, his niece, have an arc which is interesting. Roy and his girlfriend have an arc which is interesting. Now, all that's interesting, but the biggest interesting thing about Ted Lasso is what the fuck happened to Ted? This whole season, we saw some shit that was fucking nuts, and it's wonderful, right? But it's not wonderful, right? Because we start to be seeing Ted as not this. That's kind of like a tragic figure. Right. As a friend of mine.
He's kind of having issues that we wouldn't expect him to have considering the first season.
Right. Stuff involving, and now it kind of comes together with this understanding of like the first season. If you haven't seen it, folks, I'm sorry. I'm going to ruin some shit for you right now. But it's been out for fucking 2 years.
This is why I waited. I waited to watch it for the people, so I wouldn't ruin anything for them.
I'm talking about season 1, not season 2. I haven't said anything about season 2 yet.
Still.
One, not 2. It's 1.
All right.
1. Okay. When Ted has that crazy ass fucking breakdown in the karaoke episode where they went to play and they beat that team. What I found really interesting was this. It then led to an understanding of who he was in a way that we didn't get. And to be honest with you, that all this season has been that. And it's been really interesting how Ted has gone from this paragon,
right,
to this, like, I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say sad because he's still inspirational to me. It's just different, right?
Yes.
But he's kind of like you never realize how deep how deep his pain is, and it's fucking interesting, man. It's really fucking interesting. What's also interesting is all the various relationships on this show and how they intermingle and connect. Roy and Jamie, for example.
Right. It's interesting too because the pain that he shares, and that's why the funeral episode is so interesting, shows that people still are sharing it in the same way, even though it might be a different situation.
Right.
So it's very interesting to see, not to give anything away, but the psychologist having a same sort of situation, and Jamie saying stuff to Keely in his way, and then Roy comes in and says the same thing a couple of minutes later. So all these things are interconnected because I guess the moral of the story, if and tell me if I'm wrong up to this point, is that we're in this journey, right? We're in this journey as people. We're rowing this boat, and we're all going different ways because we all have different plans and different ideas. But we're intersecting. We're hitting these giant waves. If you want to get now, break it down to philosophy. We keep hitting these waves. We all hit these waves. Doesn't matter who you are or what walk of life. You're hitting these waves, and how you come out of it is important because it's going to be either good or bad, but you're going to come out of it.
Right.
And he says that at one point, and he says that at one point. Remember when he's talking about the communism bit, when he's like the romantic communism
thing? That we're getting hit on that one. They're not letting us. It's considered content, so they're not letting us have that one in. But yeah, the idea of Ron communism where nobody starts in the dark forest. He's absolutely right.
Rom-coms. That's what he's trying to say.
Right.
Rom-com. Not the breakdown of political things.
His rom-com theory of life is really, really wonderful. And if I know there was a clip that we played on the show about 3 weeks ago or something, and it's funny, but it's not that funny because his point of view is interesting. He says things are going to work out. Might not be the way you want them to work out. Might not be the way you're thinking about them working out, but they're going to work out. And his point is right. It's right. Things are going to fucking work out. Right. And it's great to have that positive attitude of how things work. But yeah, we're just taking a break here. We're not talking about Ted yet.
Right.
We're going to do an episode by episode break because that's what he said he's going to do.
right. That's where I want to go with this.
All right.
And the reason why you should do it with this is because I think this show it's unlike anything we've seen in recent times, if you want to say it that way, because it's giving you, the formula is very basic, right? It's Hollywood 101. You're taking a guy from who's in as a certain person, take him out of his element and putting him in a whole different element, and now you got to try to sink or swim. Like that's Hollywood 101, right? So that formula is very basic. Yeah. But everything around it, when it comes to the characters and how they intersect, it has without a totally different show, but the Wire type of feel, in that each episode is interconnected. And if you miss one episode, you're gonna miss something because there's a little thing about a certain episode, even if it makes no sense at the time, is gonna make sense, 5 episodes later, and then it kind of connects and keeps going. Which is why I love The Wire in that sense, because of how it used to do that in its charge. And we're seeing this consistently with this show, which is why I told you in the beginning, I didn't want to see the show episode by episode. This is why I enjoyed watching it the way I have, because I've been able to see it back to back and catch all the things instead of seeing something that said, wait, did he say this? And then going back, I already saw it because I'm in this continuum. That's why these type of shows, I like watching them the way I do. That's just my preference, but it's what I've learned with these Netflix type of shows to do. Like the Ozark is another perfect example of that. If I would have watched it, if it would have came out, let's say weekly, I would have been I probably wouldn't have watched it because I would have been, life would have happened and I would have just moved on and then come back and I wouldn't have appreciated. But because I saw it in chunks, I appreciated it more. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I think it's going on with Ted Lasso. That's why we need to break this down episode by episode so that we see how everything is connecting and why people are saying what they're saying, because they're saying specific things. There's plot points to this that are connecting, and they're doing it on purpose. Yeah. So there's a reason for what's deep going on. And the wedding. The funeral was a perfect example of that. Yeah. How everything was basically connected. Each character was going through the same thing at the same time, and how they connected it, it was a great episode in that sense.
It was really, really wonderful. And one of the things I like about and I'm gonna just say to you that everything you said is true. I completely agree. And I want to spend more time there, but I think that we need to put it aside for right now, and then move on to the next thing. Right. Only because I agree with you, and it's 100% right. And I
got a lot to say that we haven't even touched on.
That we haven't even touched on, folks. You have to, if you don't even begin to understand what this is about, it's going to be quite the situation. For people who are digging Ted Lasso and stuff. I don't know. I'm getting a phone call. Okay. So I'm going to move on.
Ted Lasso's calling him himself.
Yeah. Hey, Jesus. Oh my God. There's interesting. Just all right. Moving
on. So to stay in the entertainment world for a second, I mentioned before that, and I haven't seen it, but Chappelle's comedy stand-up comedy show hit Netflix basically today.
Yeah.
We definitely have to talk about this next episode. But that being said, since we haven't seen it, because I definitely will see it before we talk next. Since we haven't seen it, I want to see what you think this episode is going to be, what this comedy special is going to be, based on what we have seen up to Dave Chappelle up to now and what we know about him. And because he says this is going to be the last one he does for a while. So what do you think this is going to focus on? Just out of curiosity, just broad things. And the reason why I ask is because Chappelle's now hit a different element when it comes to who he is as a comedian.
Right.
Literally, he's not Joe Rogan where he's just going and, you just listen to him. And if you like him, you like him. You don't, you don't. He's beyond that point. He's now hit the big boy level, and now he's even surpassed that. Like I was saying, yes, he's even surpassed that, but he's become part of the social narrative. So I'm curious what he's going to use to make people talk or think or or agree with or disagree with, basically.
I think that Dave Chappelle is a interesting dude. Last year he put out a 10-minute show about one
right,
and he was very much about how this one dude, 15-minute show, whatever it was, about this one
15
dude
minutes,
was basically killed by the police, right? And he went on to talk about how, the same cop that pulled him over killed a kid in Walmart, and some other stuff. I think Dave didn't want to be the guy he didn't want to be the voice of the anti-Trump voice in his part of Ohio, but he is definitely anti-Trump. But he was more along the lines of, let's give this guy a minute, and he realized after the fact it was a mistake, because he hasn't really said a lot about stuff in the COVID era.
Yeah.
So what I think David's going to do is talk about bigotry. I think he's going to talk about racism. I think he's going to talk about COVID. I think he's going to talk about, himself, which he always does. And he's going to bring it in that place where he's talking about himself and yet talking about all these things. I haven't seen the show. I'm going to watch it right after this because I got to see it.
Yeah, I'm going to see it. I'm going to see it probably
I'm very
this weekend,
interested to see what's going on, honestly. I'm very interested in Chappelle. So that's what I think is going to happen. He never disappoints, although he does seem... There are people that get upset about how he treats, gays and trans people.
Right, certain groups.
And I think that he's more like, I make fun of everybody. Fuck you. And he's right. There is no sacred cows in Dave Chappelle's world. White people, black people, doesn't matter. You're on the stake.
Right.
Gays, lesbians, doesn't matter. He's going after you. He's going to make his jokes. And if you don't like them, don't watch them. I know that people say, well, it's comedy's punching down. I'm like, comedy's always that's all comedy is. Comedy is tragedy plus time. Why do we make fun of the Titanic? Because shit's funny. You can't either laugh about it or you cry. There's a lot of people that died in the Titanic. You can make fucking Titanic jokes all day long. You know why? Because you don't know any of those people who died in the Titanic. In 100 years, or in 50 years, right, when COVID's over and we're living in a blasted desert of a country, we're going to make fun of two things: COVID and global warming, because there's nothing else we can make fun of. Tragedy plus time, man. That's what comedy is. So when you say, oh, he's punching down at who? He's black. Like, come on.
Right.
We talk about Latinos. We talk about us making fun of ourselves and stuff, and growing up as underprivileged kids in Brooklyn. You know what I mean? Brooklyn.
Right.
Where my Brooklyn at? Underprivileged kids in Brooklyn. But the realization is this: we were underprivileged kids in Brooklyn. Shit's fucked up.
Right.
And it just got more fucked up. You poor in the United States now, you're fucking poor, man. You're working at fucking McDonald's making $7.50 an hour and hoping you can fucking make ends meet, living with 5 other people in one apartment. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And you could say, oh, we can't pay much people much more because of the hamburgers will cost more. You don't care. You know why you don't care? And we've said this before, because you're still gonna pay for the fucking hamburger. You know what I'm saying? That Big Mac is $5. Yeah, and I guess I'm having a Big Mac.
Now let me ask you this question: when you were growing up, when we were kids, did you think you were poor? Just out of curiosity, because it never crossed my mind. We struggled, we had issues, we had times where I knew we didn't have stuff, but it was never like talked about. It was never this was what's going on. You know what I'm trying to say? I
yeah.
don't know if it's because our family just doesn't talk about those things, because it doesn't in many
No,
respects.
I mean, there were levels in the family, right? Everyone had some kind of situation that was different from everybody else. There were some people who lived in shitty apartments, and there were some people who lived in homes and houses.
Yeah.
There's some people who had this going for them, and some people who had this going for them. We could talk about all the different kinds of people. Look, the realization is this. We had people in the middle class in our family, and we didn't even think of it that way. We had people who were poor in our family, and we didn't think of it that way. Our aunts helped each other in all kinds of different ways. Was there money involved? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
There is no one has been. I would like someday, right? And I know this isn't going to happen with us because people just don't fucking talk about this shit. To sit down with our parents and say, how can you give us a story of what happened to you guys? How did you get here? How did you get here? Because I've tried, and it's like pulling teeth, man. It's like
I know.
It's a bait,
I tried
right?
to, and it becomes very frustrating because it's like they're trying to hide stuff for someone.
They don't want to tell you anything because of their fucking embarrassment of being poor in the United States. Hey, I don't care. I'm not judging you. I just want to know because it helps me understand where the fuck I came from, right? And that to me is like, but yeah, we could talk. Did I know I was poor? You know when I knew I realized I was poor? I realized I was poor when I wanted a pair of sneakers and I couldn't have them. Like, it was like when I was a teenager is when I realized that we didn't have any fucking money. Did they clothe me? Yes. Did they feed me? Yes. Did I have my school supplies? Yes. Did I have a warm coat for the winter every year? Yes. Did I have any money? No.
Right.
And it was frustrating because, like, I was a fat kid, right? I was a fat kid. It was just who I was. It's not like I ate a lot of food or anything. I was just fat. I was a fat kid until I was in my teens. It's just the way my metabolism worked. Nothing came out of me very quickly. I was still athletic. I ran my ass around all the time, but I wasn't I wasn't a thin person. I was a fat kid.
But then you became Joe Weider, and you were just like, boom, couldn't fit into shirts, just like, just creatine out at one
point. No. He became Joe Weider. Actually, no. I had some. I lost weight. I gained weight. I lost weight. I gained weight. It's a contracting, expanding, contracting on my own timeline. It's just the way things are. But the realization is I was a fat kid, so every time my mother had to buy pants, she had to buy they had to buy the men's pants. So it wasn't like the $10 kids pants, it was the $20 man's pants for me. Right. And I realized that was an issue, and it made me sad because I didn't want my mother to spend, $100 on fucking pants for me for school. But that was the shit that happened, When they went to the Dominican Republic, somebody was scraping money together to get those plane tickets.
Yeah. Right.
Or got a helping hand from somebody, or whatever. There was all kinds of stories. You could tell all kinds of stories from the family, and it's interesting, but it's not specific to one thing or another. It's just what it is. Were we poor? Sure.
And it's why I asked it, because like just now, like you know how it is. You mentioned it. You try to get information, just even basic stuff, just like what's going on in your day, and it becomes this convoluted. I just give you just enough, and then you have to find out from somebody else. It's like putting the piece of puzzle together. And I'm like, why is it so complicated?
Somebody we know and a TV.
Talk.
Somebody we know on the TV.
Just talk. You know what I'm saying?
What does it matter? Who cares? That's the thing.
Especially now, like nobody's paying attention.
I just want to make sure you're okay. You're okay?
I know.
I'm okay, but then this, I don't just.
Like there'll be times when I'm talking on the phone to my mother, and like the missus will see me like just like putting my head down, while I'm on the phone, and she's like, "You're talking to your mom," because she knows that the frustration, because you're just trying to get basic information. You're just trying to I'm just trying to help. Just listen. You know what I'm trying to say? You can not take the advice, but just listen to it. So it's just always this revolving door of just people not wanting to tell you anything. That's why I asked you that question, because that was never talked about. It was never anything that was we never had a situation where somebody sat you down and said, we can't do this. It was just no or yes, but there was never a conversation of why or how this is going to hurt us later on. And nothing. There was
what's really funny, Jason, because I was older than you, people treated me differently because they felt that I could speak, they understood shit, and that might not have been the truth, but it's kind of what they did.
Right.
So your father and my father and well, not my father, but your father and Akil and our cousin's father, and
Right.
and other people explained shit to me, like
Right.
and they did it in a way that made sense. Like this happens and then this happens, and this happens and this happens. You can't do this without this. And there's this and this and this. So they gave me a better understanding of politics than I know my brother ever got. Because I listened to them and I was careful and I asked them questions. So they were like, "Oh yeah." So there was an understanding of these things, plus there was like, there was the main dudes that were around.
Used to crash the poetry classes. That's what it was. These guys used to get together and break down poetry and then go into all sorts of things. You used to break it down because you wanted to.
Well, I never liked the poetry stuff because I thought it was fucking bullshit. But I did like the politics, and I did like the understanding of why things happened the way they did. And we had someone in our family that used to read Newsweek and Time every week.
Yeah, right.
And used to read the Daily News and the Post every day.
Right.
Not Times, but close enough. You know what I mean?
But they were informed. They understood.
They used to watch the news in English and in Spanish. So that guy, I listened to, because he had an understanding of what things are and what they made and how they worked and whatever. And he was an intelligent man, and he had a job that he retired from, and he had a house. So it wasn't like these people weren't smart or were able to put things together. It's like everybody else in the family just couldn't get their shit together, and it made me wonder why. Like that's the biggest question. The question to me is why couldn't these people who had similar understandings of things, who had similar skill levels, had similar skill sets, and were able to do something very similar, couldn't get their shit together to do something like that guy could? And I think the answer was they didn't want to. They didn't want to. I mean, we could always say, Latinos are in trouble and blah, blah, blah. Latinos got fucking jobs and built.
But you think it didn't want to because the person you're talking to had a very specific type job, right? So you're saying that they didn't want to go into that type of. I don't mean that field. I mean that type of 9 to 5 kind of.
Let me ask you a question.
Type of
Let me ask you a question.
Right.
All things being equal.
Yeah.
And you still having 9 to 5 jobs, a 4-hour a week job. All things being equal, you still have evenings and weekends and to do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
No, I understand. That's what I'm trying to understand because I never had these conversations with them because they would never tell you. You see what I'm trying to say?
Because what I heard was it's the man. It was always somebody else's fault, right? It was never, and this is from my personal experience. It was somebody else's fault. It was always this guy that did this to me, and now I'm like, that guy did things to me too. I'm not, how come I'm not? I don't have a college degree, right? I don't. I have a high school diploma. I went to college for a few years. I never got a college degree. What does that mean? Well, that means that I can get a college degree now just to finish stuff off, right? Were doors closed? Sure. Did I make the best of it? Yes.
Right. I know
what I'm saying?
I hear.
I own the house. I'm, you know what I'm saying? My shit.
You live the American dream. You live the American dream.
But you know what
I had the picket dog fence and everything. You had the
dog fence. I had dogs. I had a car. I had a brand new car every 3 years. I leased it, but who gives a fuck? It's the same. It's basically comes to 6 one, half dozen the other. It's all the same. And to act as if it isn't is stupid. So to say, well, I want to do this for a living, they won't let me do it. You can still do it. No one's stopping you from fucking doing it. You can still write poetry and have a 9 to 5 job.
Right. I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can still preach in front of your fucking house and have a 9 to 5 job.
Right. No, I hear you. I hear you. Swan song. I get it.
I just don't get it.
Like you said, one day during some kind of barbecue or something, this has to come up and we'll try to bring it to the people what they said because nobody wants to talk about it at the moment, basically.
We gotta do it soon.
For whatever reason. Right.
Soon. TikTok. Not to be, whatever. But that's the understanding. Is like I feel like we are capable humans. If we were to step away from ourselves for a moment and decide what we need to do to make things happen, right? Whatever that is, we are capable humans. When I wanted to move away from working at a messenger service, I spent 10 years at a messenger service, from 18 to 28, whatever,
Right.
something like that. And I said to myself, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be something other than this. And I spent a year sending out resumes every Sunday. It was fucking amazing. It was like a year, every day, sending out a resume, every day, sending out a resume, every day, sending out a resume, every day. And it finally paid off, and I got a job working for a comics publisher. Was that, and it was really, I stepped in shit, I'm not going to lie. It was really, really an interesting situation. Could that have happened to anybody? Yes. Is it your dream coming true? No. It wasn't my dream. I didn't want to fucking work in the bowels of a comic book company doing shitty stuff. I mean, it changed and it grew. I had to be there to do it. But that's the thing. There's like guys that we had this idea of apprenticeships in this country, right? Where you can start working as a dude that broke rocks at the bottom of a publishing company, and then you went into the mailroom and you broke rocks in the mailroom, and then maybe you went to school for a little while and you came back and you became an editor, and then you became a publisher, and that happens. That's happened, right? But we don't do that anymore because we're not built that way anymore. We've gone out of our way to close those doors, but that's
right.
It's possible. It's still possible. You can say, "Oh, the American dream." The American dream you have to begin really fucking small. Right? And you have to cultivate that gem or that thing for as long as you got to fucking work on that walnut until that walnut becomes a walnut tree. But it takes a long fucking time. It's not simple. It's not easy. It's not anything. It's just hard. In my 30s, I bought a house because I had savings for my 401k plan to buy a house. Two of us did, my wife and myself. Right? You were a similar situation, I bet. All right?
Right.
And that's what you do. You eat up your savings from your fucking future to buy a house that might give you some money later. Who knows? Depending on the fortunes of the country itself. And we can't all live that way.
Well, there's a saying in finance that in order for you to grow financially, you need to forget about the present and think about the future. So basically, you basically whatever money you get, you put in, $100, $20, whatever it is that you can afford away, and that would eventually grow. But because of compound interest, that will eventually grow. But if you don't look at it that way, if you look at it like, I want, $100,000 right now, or in 2 weeks, or in 2 months, that's not going to happen.
I need it now for blah blah blah. You don't need any.
Right.
There's nothing you need. Right. To be honest with you. Other than a roof over your head, electricity, right, that runs your shit, and all the various creature comforts that you need to live in the future, this is the future. You don't need anything else.
Right.
So all the money that you're not spending, which is probably a third of your pay, can be put into savings. Now you're saying a third of my pay put into savings. What am I going to... So don't put a third, put a quarter, put a tenth.
Yeah.
No? It does a tenth of your savings in the stock market in mutual funds or something like that can make you a lot of money in 10 years.
Right.
But that's all that we have with the financial corner.
That's the financial show. That's the financial show we're doing in a couple.
That's a financial show. Come back next week. No, but you know what I'm saying. We could do that. Now we talked about Dave Chappelle. We talked about COVID. We talked about some politics stuff.
Right.
We talked about Ted Lasso for a little bit. I want to ask you if you've been able to catch any other shows.
In what capacity?
Like What If? Or Foundation. I've been watching Foundation. Apple TV.
I watched What If. I have to. I want. Oh, did you see? I haven't seen it, but I'm going to see it probably tonight. The Jon Stewart Show. Did you see the show? Did you see it?
I watched.
Did you enjoy it? Was it Daily Show-ish or not?
No.
What was your take on it?
It was not Daily Show-ish. Yeah, but it was Jon Stewart. It was Jon Stewart being really funny. Jon Stewart's really funny. He's really, really funny. Yeah. And his show is really kind of like similar to what's happening with Next Week Tonight. or this week
Gotcha.
tonight, and stuff like that, where he focuses on one thing and he talks about it. But he's not. His point is like, hey man, the Daily Show brought a lot of stuff to the fore, but we didn't really spend a lot of time talking about those things. I mean, my favorite thing is when Jon Stewart fought with politicians who said stuff, and he did like the fuck you and stuff, but he was known to. He was known to be a hothead. Right. So it's interesting to see how he's toning that down, or maybe realized some of his mistakes. There were people on the show that felt insulted by him racially. There were people on the show that felt that he wasn't understanding where they were coming from. There was all kinds of stuff that was happening on the show. That's interesting now, in hindsight. Hindsight. But the realization is there is this ongoing there's stuff, right, that's specific to Jon Stewart that is really funny and really entertaining and really interesting. I watched some of his show. I watched the beginning and I watched him introduce himself, and that was really funny. I think that overall, I haven't watched the rest of it, but yeah. So Apple TV has like a lot of shit that's coming out. And I've been paying, like, they started charging me back in July, $5 a month. Right. And they were like, hey, you want to pay for the whole year for $56 or whatever it was? I was like, yeah. So I paid for the whole year of Apple TV, and it just charged me. And now I like have Apple TV for a year, and I have to worry about them taking money out every month. And I got a discount and stuff like that. And there's a lot of stuff coming to Apple TV. I've watched the Foundation show, which I think is really excellent if you like science fiction. Mm-hmm. And especially if stuff that you read. I've been watching, the morning show, which is really fantastic. Speaking of which, you should check it out, considering who you are.
Yes. I saw the first 4 or 5 episodes, and
it's nuts. It's really an interesting track, and it would happen. All the stuff that happened in the morning show happened in 2018. And in 2019, sorry, and all the stuff that's happening in the new season is happening in 2020. So Trump.
So they're following the basic story arc of what's going on. Gotcha.
Yeah. So all those things are kind of falling into the show itself, and that's kind of interesting. So there's that. Where they're going to be by the end of the show, I have no idea. It's it's also like 10 episodes, but it's a really good show with really great production values. And really interesting, and really good writers, and really interesting characters. Kind of like Ted Lasso, kind of like Foundation.
You get into the Apple TV kick now. I've seen you found a new streaming service that you're falling in love with.
It's not a lot of shows, but they're all excellent. Netflix is hit and miss, right? Like The Witcher took me a while to get into. I finally watched it. I'm like, okay,
right.
The Squid Game thing is fucking nuts. But like you have to some of these things you have to watch. Like, all right, so recently on Netflix they released a really great show called Sex Education. If you haven't seen the show, it's about
I think I have seen some
a sex therapist and her son, and how the son in high school, like a local, it's like a private high school, in high school, basically becomes a sex therapist to kids. And what's really great about it is it's incredibly sex positive. And it's really interesting. Like, the storylines are interesting. All this stuff is interesting. It's about not just about people and love and sex and stuff like that, but it's about how people move through those things. And it's not just a simple like, hey, let's make a joke. It's like, no, this is kind of some serious shit. And it's really, really fascinating. And I enjoy it immensely. I don't know if they're coming back with a fourth season. But these 3 seasons that are currently on Netflix are fantastic. I've talked about the show Love, which is, again, a show it's not easy. But I like shows that are more like real life than, the happy-go-lucky shit that's on fucking TV, on regular TV.
Right.
And Netflix saves stuff like Manifest. But that being said, I really could take Netflix or leave it at this point. Hulu's
I agree.
Awesome. Disney Plus is everything you want Disney Plus to be, and HBO is really fucking good. I watched the Sopranos movie, which isn't really. They keep telling you everything you know about Tony Soprano. You don't learn shit about Tony Soprano.
That's what I've heard. That's what
Yeah.
I did. I was also to watch it, and people have told me that, so I will watch. In fact, that's gonna be the thing I'm gonna watch next. So for the next show, Sopranos, Chappelle,
Right.
and the Ted Lasso. We're gonna do a very
We're not doing it. It's gonna be all Ted Lasso next time, folks.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. All Ted
All
Lasso.
Ted Lasso. No, I'm kidding. But I
agree.
I'm going to say this about all the Saints of Newark, or whatever it's called. It was really gripping and interesting. It had interesting characters with interesting situations, with interesting story arcs, with some Tony Soprano. Tony Soprano walks in, he says hi, keeps walking. Would I like to know more about Tony Soprano? Yes. Yes, I would. Do I think that's the whole point that HBO is doing? Yes. I think HBO wants to make another fucking movie that maybe just tells about how Tony gets from being who he was as a teenager to being some like young capo guy, which we won't see for a bit. But there's a lot of work that was laid down for the movie itself during this movie that I think is going to give fruit, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. You know, and
so it's setting something up. It's setting something up basically for bigger things.
And Gandolfini's son is really actually pretty good. You know, he's really
right. He said he didn't want to take on the role in the beginning because he didn't want to be associated with the whole my dad and all this stuff. But but he finally auditioned a couple of times and they gave it to him, I guess. So we'll see.
They probably kept going after him. Is what they did.
Yeah, that's what it kind of sounded to me.
How about some more money? How about some more money? How about some more money?
Money.
Money.
Greed is good.
Pay his manly money. All right. I don't know. You think about anything else? I don't think about anything else.
No, I think we broke down. I think we hit the topics we wanted to hit, and we set up a good, kind of like the Sopranos movie. We set up for what's coming in.
Set up for next week. Make sure to check us out next week, folks. I know we've been kind of in and out over the last few weeks, mostly because
life happens. That's life happens.
Happens just like shit. It happens. My birthday's tomorrow, so
happy birthday! Woo!
Happy birthday to me! Happy birthday to me!
You can't sing that song without paying residuals.
Warner Brothers, fuck you! Happy birthday to me! Cha-cha!
Anything exciting you gonna do for your birthday, or just gonna low key it?
I got it. Bond doesn't come out until the 7th, so I can't do shit. I'm gonna sit around in the house.
Right.
I'm gonna work until around 6 o'clock, and then I'll see a movie with Fox like I always do on Wednesday nights. And she says,
right.
It was her turn, but she says we could do whatever I want to see. And I'm like, all right, we'll see something. I want to see. We'll see what it is, though.
Right. Nice.
She's all the way in Atlanta, so it's kind of fun. She gets on her little box. And I'm like, are you ready? You ready? All right, ready?
Right. And then, just like you did on the show.
Maybe watch the show. I don't know. We'll see. I don't have a clue. We watched. I don't know. Have you ever seen the movie The Ritual?
Yes, The Ritual.
The Ritual on Netflix with the fucking monster,
yeah.
Loki's kid or whatever.
Yes, I think
that movie's nuts. We watched that, and the whole time she was complaining about white men. I'm like, yo, come on, you're white. What do you? So angry. It was very funny though. I like when people get mad at the movie they're watching.
Are your kids millennials? Like, if you know, they're not. Are they?
Yes.
I'm trying to see
what are you talking about?
I'm trying to see if they were. I'm trying to see if they were after it. Some kids are after it. Like, what is
95, 97.
Okay, so I want to see if they were after. Just out of curiosity, because I'm curious what the generation after the millennials does. Because there's certain people that I've talked to that kind of look at that generation's looking at millennials like these guys are crazy. So I was just curious if they were like still like part of that world or not.
Millennials this year turned 40.
Yeah.
So before we realize like these youthful assholes, they're fucking 40 years old.
That's what I'm saying. And when I've talked to the kids
they're
right before it, they're like, yeah. Like they're out of control.
Millennials, the kids after it are the kids you're complaining about. Millennials are like, I have kids in a fucking house. What do you get off my back? Their whole point is, we make the same mistakes over and over again, right? So we get taught by the people in front of us to act a certain way, and either we buy into it I have people who are really, I love them. They're very sweet to me. I love them dearly. They're conservatives, and it makes me sad because what they're saying is you can't piss on the flag. You can't do this. Blah, blah, blah. It's like you're not understanding anything that's happening here. You're internalizing something that should be externalized, right? Stop looking at it from the point of view of somebody in 1975 or sometime in 1965 and start looking at it from the point of view of what's going on with you. And I've said this to you. I said this before. It's like people are like, I can wear the American flag everywhere. It's like I'm going to wear the American flag to school. It's like, no, you shouldn't wear the American flag to school. You wearing the American flag in any kind of shape or form is disrespecting the flag, because the flag should only be used. The image of the flag should only be used, on a as a flag. The reason why hippies considered the flag were considered disrespectful to the flag is because they put the flag on everything on purpose to piss off their parents. You see what happens? And then that shit turns around into this thing where it's patriotism. You're not supposed, if you're a patriot, you don't fucking wear the flag, bro. You don't do that.
And this goes into the millennial conversation. How?
What? Well, because it's the idea is of things changing and people realizing how things are connected and interconnected and acting as if somehow millennials are evil because they have thoughts. And they're all trans, and they're all okay.
But the only difference, and I'm not even looking at it that way. I'm looking at it this thing that is on our hands 24/7. This phone. Those grew up with this. I'm just saying we did after them have grown up with it, but do they look at it as something that's that important? I'm just saying, because once it becomes novelty, once you have something and it goes through generations, it becomes less of an importance. I think the millennials used it because it was so important, it was so big that it took on a life of its own. So I'm just curious to see what the next generation after them thinks, because I think that the phone and the world of the phone will always be big, but the Instagram start losing importance because it becomes an everyday occurrence to them, and they're like, yeah, but I'm looking for the new thing, so I don't care about that. That's why I was asking that.
That's very interesting, and probably that's going to be the case, considering that it fucking fell apart yesterday.
Right.
That 6-hour outage of Facebook. People lost their shit.
People panicked. I know.
I'm like, what's going on? I can't see my boobs. That's me. I'm sorry. That was me. I couldn't see. I had a shirt on. That's why. It was in my boobs. All right, man. These are all interesting food for thoughts.
See, that's what we did. A little bit of tidbits to get people thinking.
Keep you thinking. We'll catch you next time. This is your old pals. What's his name? Also known as Jesus and Jason.
And song of the day.
We don't have a song of the day. What's the song of the day?
What's Ted Lasso? Oh, it's got to be the funeral song in Ted Lasso. We got to do that. It has to be. Rick Ashley.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna run you down. Never gonna find it right. Yeah, that's good. Good song.
That's the song of the day.
Never gonna make you cry. Never gonna say goodbye. Never gonna run around and desert you.
Song brings people together in many ways.
I don't own it. I'm just singing it. It can't be the happy birthday song? Okay.
Well, then you got to pay residuals for that. I don't know. We might get away with the blah blah.
Yeah, right. I love when stores and other places did their own version of the happy birthday song.
Right. Exactly.
They did at one place we went to. They did happy birthday to the Macarena, which was fucking choice.
Right.
Indian restaurant. Indian guys singing happy birthday to the Macarena. Yes. Yes. All right. Until next time, folks. It's your old pal. What's his name? Did I do this already? We'll see you next time. Jesus.
You did it. See you later.
I need to stop this.
Good times.